Hello. Today I am sick. I've got a sore throat and a lot of congestion, so no review. But you know what? I did like 9 reviews last week, so I can have a day off. Instead, I want to talk about wine and really about what wine can learn from what rum consumers have been going through over the last 10, 15 years or so. So I'm going to get to I'm going to lead up to my main proposal. I will, if you want to skip to the important part, I will put a link down below. But so here's the thing: I sell wine for a living. That's where I make my money, and wine is kind of in trouble right now. Beer is really in trouble, but like wine also, like the trend is, it's not looking good. You dig into consumption is down really globally, but especially in the U.S. And you dig into what's going on there, and a lot of it is demographic. A lot of it is the older folks who are the kind of the big spenders on wine, the folks who are, happy to drop, $100 on a bottle every week, maybe. Those folks retiring or cutting back or just dying, and they're not really being replaced by a younger crowd. The young folks really aren't going for wine. And, why is that? I mean, part of it is, like they're a little bit more health conscious maybe, and alcohol just isn't all that healthy. Part of it is they pour, and wine is, especially like the big brand California stuff that mostly gets shoved in their faces. Wine is kind of expensive, and they're statistically poor. Again, I'm generalizing, but you have to generalize at this level of discussion, right? And also just because like there's not a lot of appeal being made to the changing tastes of the millennials and the Zoomers. Again, I don't want to talk about all their, all the tastes of the up and coming generations, but I don't really see a lot of outreach towards them. I don't see a lot of wines that are really catered to those folks' tastes. It's happening in other categories, not really, and it's even happening in like Europe, France in particular, but not really in the U.S. In the U.S., the wines these younger folks are likely to stumble across and try and think of as representative wine, or again those kind of big name pole brands, which are kind of catered to the tastes of the generation that grew up with Robert Parker and put Coca-Cola machines in every restaurant in America, and that's just not where the millennials and Zoomers are. Above all, what they're likely to stumble across and think of as representative wine in a not good way is a category that's really relatively new. I don't think it's really existed or been prominent, at least for the last, prior to the last 20 odd years. I don't think it has a name. I haven't had anyone else really name it as such. I've started calling them Shrek wines. I've tried a couple of other names. I've tried cosmetic wines. I have tried adulterated wines. I don't really like those terms. I'm sticking with Shrek wines because these are what defines these things is they pretend to be big and serious and impressive, and then when you look at closer, they turn out to just be cartoon characters. So the U.S. has had a history of cheap crap wine that's been like sugared up, oak chips, like added flavors, added colorant, all the cheap tricks, right, to make a wine palatable in a certain sense. It's also had a tradition of premium and super premium wines that are a little bit more approachable, a little bit more fruit forward, easygoing, but still are real wines, still go with food, right? Shrek wines are a different kind of breed. These are, I'm going to call these like premium and super premium priced wines. So not cheap, but they sit on the shelf acting like normal dry wines next to everything else. And inevitably, it's the prominent international categories. It's, you know, Cabernet Sauvignon, Pinot Noir, Chardonnay, red blends, a couple of Merlots to the extent that people still buy Merlots. These things sit on the shelf like normal wines, and it's really only when you spend your money on them and taste them that you realize they're faker than hell. And that's fine if you have some experience with wine, you can tell that they're faker than hell. But what if you don't, and these are your sort of immediate exposure to wines? What has wine got for going for it that it's like over the other categories that people might choose to explore? It's food friendly, and it's got a certain integrity. The Shrek wines are flatter than hell. They don't go with food at all, and they're just fake. So if this is what represents wine now, there's no reason not to leave, right? So my nightmare for my career is some kid in their mid-20s trying Meiomi Pinot Noir or Belglas for that matter, and just thinking, oh my God, this is what Pinot Noir is. I never want to have another Pinot Noir in my life. Or, oh my God, this is what $50 gets you in wine world. This is so mid. I'm off to drink seltzers and tequila. Compound that over several million times, and 10 years from now I'm out of a job. So that is a problem for me, and also just a problem for consumers, because again, these I don't think the quality is high on these. So yeah, that is the category I want to deal with here. Now, that's not to say the Shrek wines are the only problem that there is, but I mean there are a lot of them, and the problem is the transparency thing, right? It doesn't matter if I don't like them, if you don't like them. The problem is that these things are sitting on the shelves like everything else, like the wines that are playing by the rules, and they're not really being pointed out as being just entirely different kinds of things. Now, if you are a rum person watching this and listening, and you haven't clicked off already, a lot of this should sound familiar to you, because rum kind of went through this same kind of thing. The rise of the Shrek wines really coincided with the rise of quote-unquote premium rum. We're talking Diplomatico, Zacapa, Plantation XO, the old El Dorado range, right? These things bottled at 40%, which we now know are just filthy with additives. And there were debates back in the day on forums and stuff, because these things were starting to sell really well, about are these okay? Are these rums normal? Are you adding stuff to these? Is there sugar added to this? To which the response commonly was, rum is sweet because it's made with molasses, idiot. Or, why do you hate the heritage of Spanish-style rum, you racist? It was only when the hydrometer tests came out that this debate really started to get interesting and important. Johnny Dreher, I think his name was, figured out that you could use a basic home hydrometer test. You could basically use it as an indirect way to measure additives in rum. And even beyond that, people started to recognize that even though the U.S. government has basically doesn't put anywhere on their labels the sugar contents of alcohol, or at least it's not required, because The FDA doesn't regulate alcohol labels. It's an entirely different agency which doesn't care. Sorry, your tax dollars at work. But they found out that other governments in the world do. So, in particular, I think it was the Finnish alcohol monopoly reports sugar levels on rums. Now, that doesn't get it to all the other additives, right? So this all still remains a little bit rough, but you could at least, post out all the different sugar levels on these rums. And lo and behold, these things had a lot of sugar. So that kind of ended the debate. People, between the hydrometers and the Finnish government, it was over. These rums they've got sugar in them, added to them. And oh, by the way, sugar doesn't come through distillation, so that had to be added after the fact. And it's a funny thing, because it turns out people love drinking adulterated sugary crap when they think it is, normal, dry, serious stuff, right? But once they find out that it is adulterated sugary crap, suddenly a lot of that appeal goes away and they start looking at other things. It was really after people started to figure out how to get at sugar levels on rums that you had a lot of interest in stuff like Coroni, Foursquare, the Jamaicans, the really integrity driven members of the rum category. And we are sitting in the middle of that boom ever since. It's not like Zacapa will ever stop selling, but it's lost that shine. It's certainly not representative of the rum category anymore. Thank goodness. It's actually I have mixed feelings about people just thinking sugary things are bad, because I like a lot of sugary things. It's crappy sugary things and sugary things that pretend not to be sugary that I have issues with. Now wine. Sugar is let's talk about sugar and wine, right? Because unlike spirits, which you distill something, it ain't like the sugar doesn't come through distillation. Wine doesn't work like that. There's always going to be some leftover sugar that the yeasties can't get to and turn into alcohol. There's going to be more if you stop fermentation early. So a lot of my favorite wines, a lot of really traditional wines, have what we call residual sugar. So port, a lot of Rieslings, especially in the German tradition, which are phenomenal wines that can age 20, 30, 40 years. These have residual sugar in them because fermentation was stopped before you started to get in something really bone dry. But not even just that. You also have some sugar added after the fact in some very traditional styles. Champagne. I love champagne. Most of the champagnes you see will have what they call dosage, which is a little bit of effectively added sugar. And it's traditional and it works, and the style has adapted to really. So it's not just sugary crap. Like the style has adapted to account for the sugar, if that makes sense. So, sugar in wine is perfectly normal under some circumstances. The problem is stuff that has lots of sugar in it, sitting on shelves in categories where you don't expect to see it. Again, Cabernet Sauvignon, Pinot Noir, Chardonnay, stuff like that, which are supposed to be dry wines. Now, the Shrek wines, sugar certainly isn't the only problem. I was looking for measurement on Rombauer Chardonnay, which is these days definitely a Shrek wine. And I think it's only 5 or 6 grams, but that is not to say Rombauer does not have problems well beyond the sugar contents. But sugar content is kind of a is an objective measurement you should be able to get at, right? That should tell you that these wines are a little bit manipulated. And again, they couldn't find all the additives in rum either, but sugar is the one they glommed onto because you could find that. So here's an idea. If you want to protect the integrity and the transparency of wine, and the U.S. government is not gonna do that for you, why not just go out there and check on the sugar levels of all these wines? It's not going to tell you all the problems with them, but it'll tell you that, right? So how do you do that? Would you buy these wines and get a home hydrometer test? There's an easier way, and let me introduce you to our new hero, the LCBO, the Liquor Control Board of Ontario. Not the hero we wanted, certainly not the hero that Canadians the world over would have wanted, but the hero we got. You see, the LCBO, their stores sell a lot of American wine. And their website lists sugar contents for every single wine that these stores sell. So you can go to the LCBO and check and get numbers. You can get sugar numbers. Now, I don't know if Ontario is doing these tests themselves, if they're requiring this information from the producers and importers. I don't know where the numbers are coming from exactly, but there are numbers. And they are surprising. So the best-selling wine in the U.S. right now, last I checked, was Meiomi Pinot Noir. Meiomi Pinot Noir has got, let me check my list here. Meiomi Pinot Noir, 28 grams per liter of sugar. Now, for reference, can of Coca-Cola has a little between 100 and 110 grams per liter. So 28 is not like that sweet, but we're getting up there. There are a lot of dosed rums that are not as sweet as this thing is. You know that the 19 Crimes Snoop Dogg wine, the Cali Red, that we all like to make fun of? That only has 21 grams. It is drier than the current iteration of Meiomi Pinot Noir. Other things? Caymus Cabernet Sauvignon from Napa Valley. Caymus used to be one of the most respected winemakers in Napa. Their cab has now since become kind of like a bad joke among sommeliers because, I mean, a Cabernet at the price point it's at, which is like $80 plus, should have lots of tannin, lots of acid. It should be extremely food friendly. It should be ready to go with a steak. It should be something that will benefit from decanting. Caymus Cabernet Sauvignon at the present moment is legitimately syrupy. It tastes like a milkshake made of oak and purple. It has no acid. It has no tannin, really. I cannot enumerate all the things they're doing wrong to make that happen, but I can point out 10 grams of residual, of not even residual, I don't even know if it's residual or not, 10 grams per liter of sugar in Caymus Cabernet Sauvignon. Yeah, that is not a dry wine. I mean, for reference, I think 10 is the point where people agree, like you were drinking an off-dry wine. Once you're up to 10 grams or so, I would call, south of 5 grams, 5 grams or less, dry. 3 to 2, 2 below that, bone dry. There's a kind of no man's land between maybe 5 and 10 grams where you can debate. I mean, for me, like once you're up to 6, I can tell something is up. I had the H3 Cabernet from Horse Seven Hills not too long ago, and I remember thinking there was something up with it, like the oak was just a little too loud or something, but I couldn't put my finger on it. Now I can put my finger on it. It is what I wrote all this down. I'm looking at it. Oh yeah, it is 6 grams per liter of sugar added, or left in from after fermentation. Who knows? So yeah, so here's my modest proposal to to save wine, or at least make it more transparent. Let's start, making lists of the sugar levels in these wines. I have found 20 of them. I am listing them down below. Just follow the example of the rums, right? Just name of the rum, where it's from, how much sugar is listed on the LCBO website or wherever you're getting the information, and when you took the measurement, or when you got that information, so time code it. I've started, I am not a really good tech person. I could probably make a Google spreadsheet if you put a gun to my head, but I'm really not that great at techie stuff, but some of you are. So what I would like to encourage is take what I've started with down below and make an easily accessible list, an easily sortable list for consumers to have when they go wine shopping, just as is out there for rum shopping these days. That is my modest proposal. We should step up. We wine lovers and we people who care about the category should step up and do this. First, starting with a lot of the Shrek wines coming out of California, but then really, why not go around the world? I want to know how much sugar is in my Riesling, don't you? Not just to avoid the ones with sugar, but sometimes, hey, you might want a Pinot Noir with 28 grams per liter of sugar at some point. I don't know what that scenario would be, but there might be that scenario, and you can buy that, or if you're selling wine, direct customers towards things with the appropriate level of sugar once you know what they are. Anyways, looking at this list I've already compiled of stuff, bestsellers and a couple of things I was just curious about. There are a number of surprises. Again, Meiomi and 19 Crimes Snoop Dogg are actually sweeter than, say, Apothic Red Blend, which is another one we all make fun of. Apothic is a mere 15 grams per liter of sugar. It is drier than Meiomi by half. Let's see, other stuff. J. Lore Cab, not a brand I've championed very much, but their Cabernet from Paso, a place which is not shy about their sugar levels, is basically completely dry. It's 3 grams per liter. Wine of Substance, Charles Smith, their Cab, again 3 grams per liter. Stag's Leap Artemis Cab, a wine I don't even really like that much, but I appreciate that it's about the same price as Caymus and 2 grams per liter of sugar, so bone dry. White wines in general, particularly Sauvignon Blancs, seem to be drier than the reds, at least in America. Part of that may be because they have to compete with New Zealand Sauvignon Blancs, which are dry. Chards get a little bit up there. Kendall Jackson Vintners Reserve, which my family drank incessantly, and which made me think I hated Chardonnay and hated wine. 10 grams, but the levels seem to be a little bit lower. Anyways, I'm going to shut up and stop talking about this. There's the information down below. Go use it for purposes of good, because consumers deserve to know this stuff, and I want wine to keep its integrity. I'm hoping what happens is they either say, "Oh, I they say either, oh, these are sugary and adulterated, I'm going to go buy something that isn't. And producers follow, as they did in prom. Like El Dorado is no longer a sugary mess, right? Producers will follow and start making drier stuff, or at least stuff that's more transparent on the label. Or they will say, I guess I like some sweeter off-dry wines after all, and just go buy things that are, specifically made in that style, and better made in that style. Anyways, I see nothing but good happening from more transparency in wine. I'm over 25 minutes now. I've talked for too long. That's the message. Go save wine. Go get the truth out there about the Shrek wines. And let's hopefully I'll be feeling better next time, and I'll be able to do some reviews. Thanks for watching, and cheers.